There's nothing quite like the sound of the guitar for the instrumental intro, is there? And welcome back into today's stream. I have planned a nice short flight from Teesside Airport to Blackpool, and I've decided to do an NDB approach. So this is going to be a lot of fun. We're today in the Baron 58. This is one of the aircraft I was flying around in the other day, exploring the south of England, and I think we managed to do something like 6 stops in it, so it has plenty of fuel capacity. And today we are on a bit of a mission. We have to carry 4 passengers. So we have a full cargo, we have 4 passengers in the rear, and we have to take them all the way to Blackpool. Thankfully the aircraft can handle such capacity, so we got the 4 passengers in the back and we got some cargo as well. I'll go ahead and open up the doors. Open up mine as well. So as you can see, there's plenty of space. We're parked outside the, just outside the ramp on the terminal of Teesside Airport. Estimate there's going to be about 45 minutes to an hour. Depends how long it takes on the final. You can see here some fantastic detail on the Baron, of course. Wheels are looking nice and pristine. Ailerons looking very, very good. Give them a quick move. Yes, everything's working. I've already done the pre-walk around, the pre-flight walk around check. Now if you look very closely on X-Plane 12, you may be able to hear the sound of water, and that's rain basically. It is raining, drizzling, and I expect it to be a bit like this when we get there. So that is pretty detailed. That's very good sound effects and sound features. And if you look even closer, you can see water is running off of the windows, and that matches the weather currently. And I'd say we're still VFR. We're pushing into marginal. If it starts to, like, if this overcast weather and rain picks up, then we might be looking at IFR. I mean, we are at IFR technically because we're doing an NDB approach, although technically you do it visual as well. So let's go ahead and hop in. Yep, plenty of rain. Keep that shut. And like I say, the Baron can take it. 4 passengers on board. They don't have a particular preference for cruise height, so we've set 9,000 feet. I'm certainly ready as well for this experience. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk through the NDB ever so briefly. I hope this won't bore you. Stick this on the screen, so you should be able to see a document of the NDB approach for runway 10 into Blackpool. So this is an instrument chart that you can find these online, or you can buy them as part of your sort of local area charts, I believe. So we have a a fairly long way to go before we get there. As you can see here, we have a maximum speed of 210 knots for the approach. Let's think that's relatively normal. We do have our approach tower native here, but that's for real life, not the simulator. Transition altitude 3,000 feet. Initially we'll be on a inbound course, or we'll be flying to Blackpool based on the NDB, where the NDB tells us to fly. So we don't have an actual course just yet. We could set our course to be the course of the runway 28, I believe it is. That's the opposite end of what we'll be landing on. It's because our initial heading to 272. And then on the outbound, as you can see down here, we have outbound timing. Category A, B is 3 minutes, category C, D is 2.5 minutes. So we do this outbound for approximately 3 minutes. Once we've done it for 3 minutes, we do our turn to the right. Say, I'll calculate the turn rate when we're there to 092, and then we'll fly that inbound until we can see the runway. There's no need to do an overhead join or a circuit. We can do, if we want, we might be able to do a circuit before we do the approach, but I think we're good to just do the approach straight away. Yeah, so in case that should be about 3,000 of transition and down to 2,000 feet. Once we get to the inbound, we can start to descend down to 1,600 feet. Probably a little bit before then. And should we miss the approach, we'll be back up to 2,000 feet, as you can see down here, straight up to 2,000 feet. turn left and return to NDB left Bravo Papa Lima 2000 as directed. Okay, so that's the chart. So we are going to cheat. Well, we're not going to cheat. We're going to do what most pilots will do, which is use the GPS. And we're going to activate the aircraft. Okay, so let's start the Baron up. Let's get the battery on. Let's make sure it's nice and ready to be flown. Okay, so the ND start up on this is a bit different. So you would advance the throttles to about 50%. We'll do the left engine first. So that's about 15%. Fuel boost on. Oh, it is looking a bit grim, but still it's holding out for some sunshine at the beach at Blackpool. Yeah, so you leave that fuel pump on a second, turn it back off and reduce it to 25%. You go ahead and start the engine. Fantastic. Go ahead and just do the fuel pump for the right side as well. And start the engine. So there we go, nice smooth start. Everything's clear, we don't have a fire. Beacon lights, navigation lights, taxi lights can go on. Panel lights and everything else can go on. I'll turn them up bright. Don't want any issues with the light today. Okay, so that started up very well. We don't have any issues with the engines. Everything's looking temperature's looking a bit cold, slightly below green, so you want the T's and P's to be in the green. Close those cowl flaps. Suppose that's not going to help really, so leave them off until we're in there. Okay, now we've done that, we want to turn the alternators on and the avionics master switch. Again, you switch the avionics on after the engines in case there was a fire, an electrical fire or an engine fire, or indeed any other malfunction. So increase that throttle a bit more just to bring that temperature up. Probably going to need to leave these boost pumps on just for the time being, and I'll leave them on until we're in cruise. Okay, everything else is looking good. It's saying we have an outside air temperature down there about 15 degrees. I believe that is 15 degrees, so that's relatively warm. It looks like it's nearing 20, sorry, so about 16, 17, 18 degrees. Yeah, very warm. Okay, so let's go ahead and check the ATIS. We're going to check the local weather. Teesside International ATIS 132. We do this to get our QNH and other information. 380.
Runway 05, departing runway 05, wind 110 degrees 12 knots, visibility more than 10 miles, sky clear, temperature 15, dew point 6, QNH 1009, transition level flight level 075, advise on initial contact you have information Oscar.
Okay, so 1009 on the QNH, so it's dropped quite a lot.
Teesside information Oscar, 1350 Zulu. Arriving runway 05, departing runway 05, wind 110 degrees 12.
That's handy, I already have runway 05 on the heading book. I have been flying to Teesside quite a lot in my spare time, thankfully, and I have to say it's been rather pleasant experience, along with Blackpool Airport, one of my favourite airports to fly into. It has an easy route in terms of its pattern. It's very easy to see, although on occasion you may have mistaken it for Wharton. I believe it's Wharton Aerodrome, which is just adjacent, so be cautious of landing at the right airport, especially when it's dark. Okay, let's go ahead and put our flight plan in. I already know you'll notice our aircraft identification has changed, so Golf X-Ray Sierra Tango Victor today, and Echo Golf November Hotel is Blackpool. Very strange ICAO for Blackpool, I have to say. It's not what I expected. You might think it would be Echo Golf BL Bravo Lima perhaps. Okay, route. So it's coming up with NDB. I think it's a shame the map doesn't show you. This is one thing I would like to see from X-Plane 12, is to see the whole map on like flight gear. You can see the whole map if you choose to, but on here there's no option for it. So the closest we can get, we can just about see Blackpool. There we go. So you want the Bravo Papa Lima for runway 10. Assuming he's going to give us runway 10. He might not. He or she might not. EGNH, of course, he's not saved it. And we're going to program that in. I'm going to go ahead and program in it now. Just file that. Let's request clearance and then I'll file it.
Golf, X-Ray, Sierra, Tango, Victor, Alone, Beechcraft, 58 Baron. Request IFR clearance to Blackpool.
Golf, X-Ray, Sierra, Tango, Victor, clear to Blackpool. Routing as filed. Maintain 5000. Squawk 0602. QNH 1009.
Cleared IFR to Blackpool. Routing as filed. Maintain 5000. Squawk 0602. QNH 1009. Golf, X-Ray, Sierra, Tango, Victor.
Okay,
X-Ray, Sierra, Tango,
we've been cleared. We've been cleared to Blackpool, and the ATC has given us instructions. I've just turned the audio down. I noticed the aircraft was very loud, and the ATC, so my apologies. I hope it's not too loud now. I'll turn it down ever so slightly more. I want you to be able to hear what I'm saying so we can engage. Okay, so we've got our squawk code 0602, and we're only going up to 5,000, so a slight relief there for myself and passengers. We don't have to worry about the cold weather. Okay, so Echo Golf, if you want to program, you can do multiple waypoints. You simply use the GPS dial knob on the right hand side of the screen to twist the knobs to a ICAO of EGNH, Echo Golf November Hotel, and that's fairly quick. There you go, Blackpool. Okay, so now we click flight plan again to exit, then click procedures. They may vector us in for a different procedure, but for now we're going to program it in for Bravo Papa Lima, Blackpool, for the NDB approach, runway 10. So select approach. As you can see, it's come up already. NDB approach. We've already programmed our actual directional frequency, NDB 10. Let me check the chart. I believe it is Bravo Papa Lima 1. Bravo Papa Lima 1. Yep. So that's coming up for runway 10. So go ahead and do that. Load that up. Now if we zoom out on the GPS map, we can see it should be there. It is there, and I can see it, but for your sake you can't see it. So let's skip showing that in case it's hard to see. Okay, let's get our clearance to taxi.
Teesside Tower, Golf, X-Ray, Sierra,
Awesome.
Tango.
So things are going very well.
Taxi from Echo Alpha Sierra Tango Echo Romeo November April Lima India Golf Hotel Tango Alpha India Romeo Charlie Romeo Alpha Foxtrot Tango 4 departure.
Golf, Tango, Victor. Information Oscar current. Runway 05. Taxi via Alpha and Delta. Hold short of runway 05.
Information Oscar. Runway 05. Taxi via Alpha and Delta. Hold short of runway 05. Golf Tango Victor.
Awesome. So fingers crossed the ATC works today. We have our runway heading set, our book set of runway heading 05. We have our NDB and down here NDB distance and things. We are out of range at the moment, so we're going to have to fly initial heading. We'll just follow the GPS heading for now, but it's probably about it's going to give us our tracking right. So just double check this taxi instructions. Taxi 05 via Alpha and Delta, hold short runway 05 Golf Tango Victor. And I was hoping to do a VATSIM stream, but things are not on VATSIM in terms of going well. They do go well, and occasionally you get controllers where you just kind of think there's no point in doing it, so it's kind of unfortunate. If you're unsure of the taxiways, you can always zoom in on the map and make sure you're on VFR sectional and check where we are taxiing. So as you can see, we're not going to the end of 05, we're going to Bravo, which is here. That's quite a short takeoff space. We have got quite a lot of weight on board, so hopefully oh no, sorry, my mistake, Alpha Delta, so we are going all the way to the end. I'm so used to taxiing down Alpha Bravo that anything else seems abnormal. Nice swift taxi to the airport runway. Now the banner's not equipped with window wipers, but in a moment like this I would certainly appreciate them. Okay, so if you're ever unsure, these are the taxi signs: A3, Alpha 3. If we were told to hold at Alpha 3, we would stop here. We're not there, we're cleared all the way down to 05, so go all the way through the terminal area. I didn't realise Teesside was so big. I must have missed this parking spot the other night. Relatively big airport, some major aircraft. We've got the Beechcraft King Air, I believe that is, King Air aircraft. Now I did have a fly around the King Air, and I have to say it was nothing, like in terms of its quality, I found the quality really poor in terms of the interior graphics. They weren't even high quality images. But the Baron is high quality images and very good. It doesn't look blurry, it's proper dials, there's no pictures of dials, it's the proper thing. But the Beechcraft King Air, it seems the developers really were lazy on some of the aircraft, because they just slapped pictures of the aircraft's interior in the actual plane, and the seats were blurry, the doors were blurry, and it wasn't a pleasant experience flying it. It really wasn't. So yeah, the Baron, I'd recommend this aircraft. It's certainly one of the best they've put the effort into. And there's the windsock for the airport runway, so we're taking off, by the look of it, a slight crosswind, and the red and white patterned box on the left there is another radio station, probably the NDB and other things like that, because I know Teesside has one. Although come to think of it, Teesside's NDB isn't actually located at the airfield, so it's probably not that. The Teesside NDB is quite some distance out, and it's called the TD Tango Delta, which is kind of what we're on now. We're on Delta 2 taxiway. There's something quite relaxing about this. I have to say, the rain, the combination of the rain and the sun is fantastic.
Tango Victor. Report ready.
Welcome.
Will go. Golf Tango Victor.
Okay, so tower's giving us a report ready signal, radio message, so we're good to line up. We'll hold short, prepare for takeoff. We're going to switch we are going to switch the strobe lights on, just in case there are other aircraft in the area. Now usually I wouldn't do it in daytime in a general aviation aircraft, but we are on a mission flight, flying the NDB, so we need to make aircraft aware of our intentions. I'll leave the fuel pumps on until we're airborne, and then I'll switch them off. As you can see down there, we've got plenty of fuel. We've got over half a tank, and ladies and gentlemen, please put your seatbelts on and secure any loose items in the cabin. Okay, so hopefully our VIP passengers are all booted and suited and ready to take off.
Teesside Tower. Golf Tango Victor. Ready for departure.
Golf Tango Victor. Fly heading 045. Runway 05. Cleared for takeoff. Wind 100 degrees 15 knots.
Fly heading 045. Runway 05. Cleared for takeoff. Golf Tango Victor.
We have a very strong crosswind indeed. 50 knots that would be too much for the likes of the Cessna. The Baron is quite a large aircraft though, twin piston. If you ever see one in real life, they are relatively big aeroplanes. So this should be able to handle it. I haven't checked whether it's within its capacity or limits, so I'm assuming it is. If it isn't, well, we'll just have to find out. But 15 knots is, look at that, 15 knot crosswind is really yeah, that's a little bit of a concern. So what I'm going to do is going to do a crosswind takeoff. I'll show you how to do that in a second. So clear to left and clear right. No Heathrow today, no Heathrow Airport. I actually flew into Gatwick last night, very, very busy, even though it was gone. I think it was something like 11 o'clock and it was absolutely packed, or maybe 10 p.m. Okay, so we're clear for takeoff. So what we do is we turn our joystick, our yoke, into the wind, not too much, and then we can advance power. There we go. Make sure you're correct with the rudder. We're already getting blown, oh my goodness, we're already getting blown all over the place. Make sure you keep that rudder in. Oh my goodness. Okay, so the 15 knot crosswind seems to be too strong for the Baron. It was lifting the aircraft up and forcing us to take off way too early. Can't imagine a pilot ever escaping that kind of takeoff in real life. I'm going to go ahead and turn lights off early, landing lights off. So we'll be told to resume navigation in a moment. As you can see, we were given, where did he say it? He's
Tango Victor. Turn left.
There we go.
Bravo, Papa, Lima. Resume navigation.
Turn left. Direct. Bravo Papa Lima. Resume on navigation. Golf Tango Victor.
Golf Tango Victor. You're off course. Turn left. Heading 355.
Turn left. Heading 355. Golf Tango Victor.
so yeah.
Tango Victor. Turn left. Heading 300.
Turn left. Heading 300. Golf Tango Victor.
So they're giving us the instructions. I don't know why ATC does that. Everyone knows, well, people who know about the problems know that it doesn't work correctly. Resuming navigation, they should not be giving me headings after that. That means I can do what I want and fly the route I have planned. They should not be telling us to fly a heading after that. And they shouldn't repeat themselves over and over.
Right, direct. Bravo, Papa, Lima.
Yes, that's what I'm doing.
Navigation.
Turn right. Direct. Bravo Papa Lima. Resume on navigation. Golf Tango Victor.
Okay, so the climb has been pretty steep now. We're going to pitch down and reduce the manifold pressure on the propellers, the RPM, and we're going to climb at about 140 knots. I think it's about 700 feet in the Baron, 700 feet per minute. So not the quickest climb, up to 5,000 feet. Now we can, if you want to arm, I'm going to arm the navigation, so you click Flight Director, Navigation. That doesn't engage the autopilot, but it tells us where to fly to keep us on course. And we have an ETA of 30 minutes, which is as expected. A grim day. So grim. There's nothing quite like flying an instrument approach. Entirely based on instruments. And thankfully the creation of the GPS, which makes things a hell of a lot easier. Imagine back in the day when pilots didn't have a GPS, the NDB approach would have been quite the nightmare. And you'll notice, I've noticed on the X-Plane 12 the NDB compass doesn't move. I've noticed on, I think it's Microsoft Flight Simulator, the compass moves so it works. You don't have to correct for the drift, but on X-Plane 12 you have to correct for the drift. Maybe that's because it's more realistic. Who knows? If you have experience on it, then that'd be great to hear. As you see, we're not picking up that signal just yet. We have got ADF on, action directional frequency. And if you want to listen to the NDB signal, we can click ADF1 on the radio stack over here on the right.
118.480. Goodbye.
Contact London Control 118.480. Golf Tango Victor. Goodbye.
We've been passed off to London. I do get a little bit fed up of talking to London, to be honest. Not the people, but I wish there was someone else covering the northwest and the northeast. You know, it's there to turn my fuel pumps off, and I will engage the autopilot when we're up in the 5,000 feet range. For now, we're climbing relatively smoothly up to about 1,000 feet, 700 to 1,000 feet a minute. Navigation switch had disengaged then, so we want to make sure it's telling us to fly the right direction. That's about 5,000 feet, so we're going to prepare to level off. And the throttle's already reduced to 20 on the manifold pressure. And we could reduce the propeller RPM as well. Okay, so we want to pitch, reduce that power slightly, and then trim. It'll be a good time to engage the autopilot. So click that on, and we are locked into the autopilot now. So we can let the plane fly itself. I can check the chat. So it's looking relatively sunny. I'm glad I'm glad we'll have a nice arrival into Blackpool. Hopefully be able to see some nice buildings. As you can see, we've got the massive hills and probably a fantastic walking spot for any hikers out there. You want to walk in the Teesside area. I believe Teesside is near Newcastle. Looks like a very, very, very nice place. So back to the map briefly. We have the Blackpool Tower, of course, and we have the airport. We're tuned into the NDB at the moment. Tall tower is the Blackpool Tower. It does say Blackpool Tower over there as well. So 2,500 feet. We'll be coming down at transition altitude 3,000 if you remember from the NDB chart, and then 2,000 for the approach, and then down to 1,600 for the final, or no lower than 1,600 for the final. Onto runway 10, so we'll be coming around for the sea, over the sandy beaches, down through the sea, across the sea, and into runway 10. Very familiar with the airport. It is a bit convoluted when you want to taxi, so if you don't slow down in time, you have to taxi all the way down to Echo, then Charlie, Bravo, and then park up. If you manage to slow down, you're saving yourself a bit of taxi time there. And of course, if you land on runway 28, you've probably got an easier job to taxi off the runway to Delta, or even to the end of runway 28, then down Alpha. Plenty of parking spaces, and I believe the airport has a mountain rescue and air ambulance. Seems to be kind of customary at all airfields in the UK now. Have plenty of our air ambulance services there. I appreciate all the support from viewers and the likes and comments while streaming. They are really good. They keep me going. They might make the streams a bit more worth it. I already would stream on it. Honestly, I'd just stream it if no one was watching, but I'm glad you're all here. I'm glad you're enjoying it. This is England, of course. This is probably peak English countryside right now, so welcome in. Okay, sail limits to set course to 232. Just about on course 232 at the moment. So let's go ahead and do that. Look at the graphics and the complexity of the instrument panel. The visual fidelity is fantastic, I have to say. It's one of the best, especially now. I'm getting like in excess of 80 frames, and a second ago it was 100. You see up on the top left it's gone up to 100 frames. So when you're in a nice clear area, not much scenery, you have a high frame rate. So if you have a good computer, and I say good, all you really need is good processing power and good video RAM, and of course RAM in general. Probably recommend a minimum of yeah, X-Plane 12 has its specs, but you want to be getting a minimum of at least 12 gigabytes video RAM minimum.
NDB approach runway 10 Golf Tango.
Okay, so ATC's on board with a Bravo Papa Lima approach into runway 10. Like I said, relatively quick flight. I'm gonna nip away from the cockpit for one moment. I'll leave you to enjoy the beautiful sights of England.
Descent by Bravo Papa Lima 1 to 1,600 for NDB approach runway 10 QNH 1003 Golf Tango Victor.
I've returned to the cockpit and I say yes. If you like arcades, if you like roller coasters, they have a water park, a theme park, they have arcades up and down the boulevard. They have ice cream, they have sweets, they have a lot of very, very fun things there. And despite the decline of British countrysides and town centres and beach towns,
Right, heading 230.
despite of the decline of those, we've been given 230, so we'll follow that. The Blackpool Pleasure Beach and the Blackpool area in general, I think is worth visiting still, so yes. Give it a shot. If you don't like it, you don't like it. Just do what you want to do there. I don't know how much it costs nowadays. But then again, it's like that in most seaside towns. Most of them have declined, but relatively fun. There's still a lot of good things to do. And of course the airports, if you like flying. You have to go down there and watch some planes take off. So we're given vectors to Bravo Papa Lima, runway 10. We zoom in here, we can see the NDB approaches there. Appeared we do need to be down to 2000, so you can see it's giving us a height. And we know transition altitude 3000, so they're probably going to give us a descent in a minute. We have selected heading, haven't we? Heading. Ah. It'd help if we selected it. And the maximum speed, if you recall, is 120 knots. So no problem for the Baron. The Baron has a sufficient amount of speed. I also experienced an engine failure the other day in the Baron. I think it was from a burst strike. I have no idea. I just heard a massive snap in the mechanical parts, and then one of the engines cut out. Then it sat on fire. So chaos, but it managed to survive on one engine with no issues. So what's going to happen now is we're going to be given these vectors. We're getting vectored in. When we get a bit closer, we can, as you can see, the outbound course, if you recall, is 3 minutes, and then the inbound course back to the runway. The vectors are not giving us a direct. Well, now the NDB approach, the NDB arrow is working at last. So we're going to go ahead and select ADF1. Should be able to hear a beeping. That beeping is the NDB station sending out its signal, of course. This arrow is pointing in the direction we want to be heading. We should really be following the navigation because the ATC gave us slightly off, but I suppose that's normal. You wouldn't fly directly to the NDB, you'd probably fly slightly off from it. If I check the chart once more, it does tell us to fly on an outbound course of 261 degrees. So we're flying outbound 261 degrees. For 3 minutes. And then we'll turn to the right. So I'll calculate the turn, but in order to calculate the turn rate you would do the speed. I believe it's +7 to give you your turn rate. Very, very bumpy as well. Looks like we're going to have a crosswind, but Blackpool's looking fantastic. And we might be able to see Blackpool Tower. I've noticed the Blackpool scenery is not quite as realistic as you would expect. It's more realistic on Microsoft Flight Simulator. There's the airport in sight. We don't really want to be looking out the windows. It's definitely instrument weather. Almost. VFR, but instrument. So the tower would be, it'd probably be sort of off to the right of us, further down. It's not there though, unfortunately. Okay, I'll turn the beeping off. Don't worry about that. One more check of the chart. So 261, 3 minutes, and then we're doing inbound 092, which is the course for the runway. And that'll just be till we see the runway in sight. I'll select nav and see if ATC calls us out. Seems like we are. Technically at this point, even though we're flying instruments, we can fly VFR. But we are flying the approach, NDB approach, so we might as well just use instruments. Strange that he's doing an IFR flight. I suppose a major airline is doing. They always do airline IFR. I don't ever see an airliner doing VFR flights. See, it's following that route to the navigation has programmed, and we're going to hand fly it in a moment. Should be down to about 3,000 feet though. Descend by okay. I must have missed that. Descend via Blackpool Bravo Papa Lima 1 to 1,600. So I missed the HC course. We'll go ahead and descend now. I'll feather the props so we can get down nice and quick. And I will bring those landing lights on in preparation. Always good to check the ATC box just in case they call you out for it. As you can see, send via Bravo Papa Lima 1 to 1,600 for NDB approach runway 10. QNH 1003, so it's dropped again. Quite a lot. There, that's it. Okay, so we're on the outbound course, 261 I believe it is. So return to 261. The outbound course for 3 minutes. Make sure we're down to 1,600 feet. No rush. Weather's picking up a lot. Look at that rain. Rain effects are really beautiful on this. Quite a long outbound course. Gives us time to descend, so I'm going to put that propeller back in. Should really be doing our downwind checks, so you would have the lights on, your gear down, your flaps down. Could do that now, just in preparation. So I suppose anything above 1600 is acceptable, even if you're not if you're not exactly 1600, it's not too much of an issue. You do need to slow down to 120 for the approach. Good for now though, 150. So of course 150 is 15 plus 7, and you would use that to calculate your rate of turn rate. Let's go ahead back on here. Let's go ahead and actually activate the approach.
Report field site. Golf Tango Victor.
I think we didn't have it activated, so we could probably do our... It's giving us a pink line and a white line. Technically we need to do the turn now. I did look at the GPS, but that's acceptable. We can use the arrow of course, and the timing is about right there. Let's go ahead and do 14 plus 7, so that's 21 degree bank angle. Maybe about 21 degrees. So it said report field in sight, which means when we see it, if we report it too soon, we might get cancelled on the approach, which would be a pain. We should really get the gear down, so I'll maintain that turn for now. 210 to 092 degrees for the runway heading. This is my first time flying in NDB on a stream, that is, and my first time not using the autopilot, so any feedback is welcomed. If I'm not doing anything right, I'm certainly open to criticisms, suggestions to improve in the future. Let's go ahead and follow that arrow. So we did do our turn. Should time the turn really. I'm going to follow the NDB arrow until it's pointing in the correct direction that we want to be heading in. I.e. when we're on course with it. When it changes and turns to the right, then we can start to adjust. Any below, I think if you're below 1600 feet, the approach is void, so you have to be at 1600 feet to make it. Of course, it's a sea approach. You can see we're right over the water, so definitely want that height. You don't want to be descending too quickly. Maybe we did the turn rate too quick, too steeply, because we're not aligned with the GPS, so we're going to go ahead and turn to the left. If I was following the NDB arrow on its own, I probably would be a bit lost by now. Keep it off slightly to the right though, and just wait for it to turn. Final heading 092. Yeah, we can start to move into the visual rather than the instrumental. To be fair, I've not been using the instruments that much. It's VFR weather. Instrument flight rules in VFR weather is absolutely acceptable. Raining though, And there's the runway, so we can definitely stick our flaps and gear down. The landing lights are on, so that's the before landing checklist complete. Passengers are secure, I'm secure. Latches, doors are closed.
Discontinue approach from Lima 1. Descend 5 November 104 NDB approach runway 1.
Okay, despite we're about to report the field in sight. Okay, well, nice telling us to report, discontinue and then report in sight. Let's tell them that we've got the field in sight.
Turn right at 261 Golf Tango.
Okay, so a bit backwardsness on the ATC again. Report field in sight, then discontinue approach, then report field in sight, then turn right 261. Well, we're on final. If we've reported the field in sight, they should be giving us clearance to land. The ATC is so messed up, you really wouldn't think that it would be a hard thing to do. A game that came out, Flight Simulator X, came out 15 years ago and it did it a heck of a lot better. There were games from the early 2000s that they did the ATC a lot better. Now we're on the approach, we're 120 knots, that's about right. 1600 feet. So at this point the ATC should use its brain, and the programmers and the people at X-Plane 12 need to really think long and hard about whether they want to call themselves the most realistic flight simulator, because I can guarantee that it's not. It is not anywhere close to being realistic in terms of its ATC. You shouldn't have to go onto VATSIM either to have a realistic experience. It's just not it's not on, is it? It's taking the biscuits, literal biscuit with the flight simulator fans. So go ahead and put 4 flaps. Just reduce that manifold pressure slightly. Maintain our steady descent rate. As you see, the NDB arrow pointing slightly off to the left, which is what we would expect. Negative, can't climb and maintain, we're on final.
1600 Golf
Short final. So I'm going to turn radio off. We're a bit too high up, quite high up. Allow the aircraft to sink over those sands, and the rain clears, and the airport's looking very nice indeed. There we go. The last couple of 100 feet, just idling the engines. Okay, we are too steep and too high up on the approach, but that's no worry. We've had a bit of a rough spot on the descent. So that's actually not too bad. Okay, lift that nose up. Float in. There we go. Nice smooth touchdown. And what we're going to do is we're going to try and taxi off here. Save ourselves having to go to the end and back. There we go. Well, welcome to Blackpool, ladies and gentlemen. I hope the flight has been enjoyable. Just stay in your seats for now. Keep your seatbelts fastened until we approach the gates. Thank you. Yeah, so that's the NDB approach as far as I can tell. Not the best one I've flown, but I was flying it flying it, and I could see everything that was going on outside, so there's probably not too much need to rely on the actual NDB needle itself. I do have a GPS off to the right. Now, if you got one, why not use it? Unless you got GPS failure, then you probably would need to use your arrow exclusively. So, okay, we are actually quite far. We've taxied to the long taxiway. It means we've got a long distance to get back to the terminal. Awesome, so this is one of the few times I've actually flown into Blackpool in the day. I haven't really had a chance to look at the terminal, but I can tell that already it looks quite well modelled in terms of realism. I'm assuming. Oh, I didn't even realise the tower is not on the concrete, so that's interesting. So the tower's out there. They must have had grass runways to begin with at some point in the past, possibly. Who knows? I have to check into the history. And of course, on the right here we have the terminal. Going to go ahead and taxi in here in our Baron, because we have 4 passengers on board that need disembarking. Some more aircraft over there. We got the, of course, the mountain rescue / air ambulance service. We've just taxied into a helicopter space, so we're going to taxi back to this little tarmac area. Hopefully this is an actual parking space. There we go, as close as we can get for the passengers. Stick the parking brake on, doesn't work. Okay, awesome. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Blackpool. I hope you've enjoyed the flight. It's been rather different to what I was expecting to do. I usually do the 737. I usually do an airliner flight. Today we wanted to fly in the rain down to lovely Blackpool from Teesside. The NDB approach went relatively well. We didn't have to rely on the instruments too much, even though it was an IFR flight. So I'll continue tomorrow. I am going to be doing a stream tomorrow, and we will continue in the 737 on Monday. On Monday I think we're going to be hopping in the 737 TUI Airlines delivery to somewhere like Svalbard as recommended, up north, so very cold, very far. And I appreciate everyone being here. It's been an absolute pleasure again, and take care.